Hi everyone, Happy New Year. Welcome to my podcast, which is primarily about knitting, my horsemanship journey with my two Mustangs, Odin and Bragi, that I adopted from the Bureau of Land Management Wild Horse Program. I will put a link in my show notes in the description box. I'm still kind of getting myself settled here. This is episode 20. Welcome. And if you are new here, I'm glad to have you here. If you are a returning listener, thanks for returning and welcome back. I was going to talk today about 2022 highlights. I'm looking at my notes just to make sure I don't miss anything. I started this vlog or podcast just on a whim in 2022, in April of 2022, and I was highly inspired by the Knit All the Yarn podcast, mostly because her style is similar to my own in the sense that I'm just going to record and I'm going to put it out there. I'm not going to do a lot of editing. I have my two recording companions here, Herbert and Harley, the little kitty cats, who are making a little bit of noise and a little bit distracting, but that's okay. I also watch, anyway, back to podcasts. I also watch a number of podcasts, and I have a knitting and horsemanship podcast, and I have that list of resources in the description box if you are interested in other vlogs and podcasts that I watch. I also wanted to go through what I knitted last year. Some of it was gift knitted and already given away, so I can't show that. I will say I have started updating my Ravelry page, and my Ravelry name is in my show notes way at the bottom. So if you are interested in some of the projects I've knit in the past, and those projects won't have as much detail in Ravelry, mostly because I just kind of don't remember. Well, not kind of don't remember, I just don't remember. But hopefully my newer projects will have a little bit more detail. So let's get started. One of the first things I knit this year was a gift knit. It was a scarf for my stepdad. It was a free pattern on Ravelry. I'm hoping to find that and post that, at least what the pattern was, even though I don't think I have a picture of the actual scarf. I made it out of really pretty blue, dark blue sport weight or DK. I'm kind of thinking back, it might have been a sport weight. It ended up being really soft. It was kind of a neat little, I think, if I remember, it was kind of a cabled pattern, maybe slightly in a chevron shape. Very pretty. I'm drinking herbal tea right now since it's in the afternoon, and I had a cup of coffee that was probably a little too late in the day for me, even on a weekend day, but I tend to get up pretty early, so if I stay awake tonight, that means I won't sleep. I won't sleep in much. So first, I was going to try to go in order. Oh, another thing I finished that was a gift knit was a moose hat, a moose motif hat that I gave to my sister for Christmas. So I don't have a picture of that, I don't think. I haven't updated that project on my Ravelry page, but I'm going to try to remember to do that after I'm done recording. I think that was it for gift knits. Let me see. The other thing, I'm going to dump out all the projects that I had saved. I have, like I said, I have cats in the room, and one of the cats in particular likes to chew on my projects, so I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. One of the first ones I finished this year, garments I finished, was this tank. This is a Barocco pattern. I'm not remembering the name of it, but I am going to look through my library and see if I can find it and post it on Ravelry. I'm trying to remember, I want to say this was a bottom up, and you started with either the front or the back. It has a split hem. The back is a little bit longer, and then knit up. I think that is the way this worked, because there is a shoulder seam. So you knit in the round, and then you knit the front and the back from the armholes up separately, and then join at the shoulders, and then put the neckline on. This yarn is a Barocco yarn. It's the quinoa weight, I guess. So it feels cottony to me, and I have this kind of in a gray with a white, there's kind of white pieces in it. So I originally bought the yarn for another project, started knitting that project and didn't like it, so I ripped it out and knit this I want to say this is the Corrina tank. So I a lot of times wear it, because I live in Northwest Washington. It's not always warm enough to wear something like this. I often wear it over like a long sleeve button down shirt or a tee or something like that, just as an extra kind of warm layer. My cat is laying on the bag that I had this in, so I can't put it back in the bag. Let's see, what else did I knit? Also, oh, here's another gift knit. I knit this hat for my partner. So this, I gave him the yarn and the needles and the pattern for Christmas, and then he opened it and I knitted it. This is one that he wears quite a lot. It's fingering weight yarn. So yeah, he's a bicyclist, a very avid bicyclist, mostly mountain biking and gravel biking. So he wears this quite a lot. Let me see, what else do I have in here? There was a Barocco, I think it was Barocco, did a sock knit along early on in the year. So I knit these socks out of patent croy yarn. They are asymmetrical socks. They're a little bit longer than I like, but they have this kind of nifty cabled pattern on one side. I think this is supposed to be the outside of the foot, and then this is the inside and the bottom and the heel, and then the inside of the leg. I typically like my socks about just below my calf, so if to make these again, I would cut the length by several, I would say probably 1, 2, 3, at least 3, maybe even 4. I would take 4 of these off and then just put the cuff on. These socks were harder than I expected. I ended up knitting a 3rd sock and then ripping out the one that I didn't like. But these are pretty warm socks, so because they are made out of patents croy. I think I used the 2.75 millimeter needles for these, and they came out of a book, an Ann Budd book, the Master Sock Class book. And my computer just shut. Oh, there it is. So I don't want to lose my place. Let's see, what else did I knit? Oh, so since I was struggling with socks a little bit, I decided to knit. This is just a basic ribbed sock. I honestly don't remember where I got the pattern. Yeah, also out of Patents Croy yarn. So one of the things that I was really struggling with, Oh, I think, no, I don't remember. One of the things I was struggling with was the toe. This kind of the standard toe doesn't fit my foot real well, so I found a relative of mine gave me a book about custom sock patterns and just how to measure your foot, and you know, how to make a sock that fits your foot. I like the heel flap and gusset. I've never tried the afterthought heel or really any other kind of a heel. Well, I have tried a different kind of heel on a Christmas stocking that I struggled with. It was a butterfly heel by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears. So the heel came out a little funky, but thankfully it's not a wearable garment. It is literally a Christmas stocking that I knit for my dad and his wife for Christmas this year. So I don't have a picture of that either. But yeah, hopefully I'll get some practice on that. But these, so this is more the length of the leg, you know, just kind of right below the calf. This is where I prefer my socks to be. So, yeah, I like these socks a lot. I accidentally left one of the socks in a Airbnb. We took a trip in October to Ocean Shores along the Washington coast, and I left one of these socks fell out of my suitcase and ended up under the bed, and I didn't realize it till I got home, but thankfully the Airbnb owner found it and mailed it back to me, so I was really happy to get that, because I don't think I had quite perfected the toe on this one, and I will talk about that in the next pair of socks I made. So this one I think is where I found this is called the barn toe, and this is out of that book, the custom sock book that one of my relatives found at a garage sale. These socks are just slightly too big for me. I think I used 60, according to the measurements, it was a 68 stitch cast on for fingering weight yarn. It's a little big for me, so I think I'm going to go back to the 64 because the socks are a little bit loose around my foot. But I do like this bigger, boxier toe. So, and these are summer socks. These are just, I don't know, I think those are 5-inch. I think that's what I ended up with, 5-inch up the leg. These are made out of West Yorkshire spinners. I want to say this is a Tequila Sunrise colored work. Yeah, so those are the third pair of socks that I knit this year, and also I knit this pair of mittens. These are Songbird mittens by Erica. Did I write it down? It's in my Ravelry notes. Sorry about the light. The light's changing. It's getting cloudy out. Songbird mittens motif. I've been wearing these a lot this time of year. They took me a long time to knit. The first one did, and but the second one went a lot quicker. And I think I used the 2.75 millimeter. I used the Flexi Flip needles for my socks and my mittens. So yeah, really enjoying wearing those this time of year. Another thing I knit, this is a raglan sweater, just out of a single cake of, it's a Lions brand DK cake yarn. I think it's like 20% wool and 80% acrylic. So self-strapping yarn. This is just a kind of a knit your own adventure formula from www.knittingfool.com. That website has a good pattern and it was just, this ended up just being a really nice fitting sweater for me. So, so I wear that a fair amount. It's 3/4. I was playing yarn chicken, so I only did 3/4 length sleeves, so it's probably warm enough now that the temperature's in the 40s and 50s, but when it was colder than that, it was definitely not warm enough. I also did a knit along, Sophia's Tales of, she is a knitwear designer in Sweden, so I did her puzzle shawl. I think this is the right direction. This is out of DK, about 200 grams of DK weight yarn. So some of this is in the white and the lavender is in, oops, I feel like I have it backwards. There, that's the right way. The lavender and the white is in West Yorkshire Spinners DK weight yarn, and this pretty purple variegated is Malabrigo. And I had quite a bit left over the Malabrigo, so it's kind of a neat little lace pattern with some moss stitch, and I think this was a Pico bind off. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, I actually don't wear it as a shawl as much as I wear it as a scarf. So I really like, I have a purple dress that I wear to work with it, so, and I'll wear it like this with a jacket, a black jacket. So yeah, that goes nicely. I'm thinking I'm gonna knit this again, maybe a little bit bigger for like a true shawl. It's not quite, I guess I would like maybe something what Stephen West calls maybe a schlanket or something like that to wear as an actual shawl. So, and I just have a couple more items. Oh, I have another pair of socks. These were the Sockoween socks that I made. Oh, I've got 2 more pairs of socks. Sockoween socks that the Bakery Bears hosted in October. So this one, I'm pretty happy with the fit. It has this barn toe, so a little bit more kind of broader, not quite as an aggressive decrease here. I wear these a fair amount, heel flap and gusset. And then I think this is 64 stitches, so they fit me pretty well. And I think I used 2 1/4 millimeter needles, flexi flips. My second pair of Sockoween socks, which I finished after the knit along was over. Oh, I forgot to mention the yarn. So this is Fiddlebits yarn, custom dyed yarn by Knitterman. I have the link in my show notes. So I asked for, you know, Halloween colors, and he came up with this, which I was surprised at how much the green stood out on this. But yeah. And then this pair of socks, computer just shut off again. This are the Almondine pattern out of that Ann Budd book, the Master Sock Knitter book. And the yarn is by Legacy Fiber Arts. This is their Smell My Feet colorway. So yeah, I think this might be their steel toes. So I did run out of the contrast color, and so the end of this toe is a little bit pink. I probably, if I hadn't done this little bit of pop on the color pop on the cuff, I probably would have had enough yarn for the toe. In fact, I'm sure I would have. But here is the way that they were supposed to turn out. So yeah. So love this colorway, really pretty. Maybe that's better for light. There we go. So yeah, is that 4 pairs of socks I knit? 5 pairs of socks? That's pretty good for me. I really haven't focused on sock knitting before. And I also knit a Barocco, this is the Adeline tee that I made. I used a Noro yarn. It's I think it's a viscose blend yarn, viscose and cotton blend, so it kind of has this nice interesting detail on the sleeve caps and on the yoke. So yeah, that was a fun knit. So kind of lace pattern. So yeah, it's kind of a lavender and white. I can't remember what I bought that yarn for, but it was something different. Again, I started knitting something, didn't like it, so so I turned it into this. And I wore this a few times in the summer. All right, put that there. And then finally, my final finished object, and I'm not even sure I should count this as finished, is the Lola top, and this is by Kutovakika. So yeah, summer top. I haven't worn it yet. It's not quite finished. I want to maybe add another row of this cream colored around and bind off slightly tighter, so just for a better fit. So yeah, so this is the front. This is a cotton yarn. That I repurposed from a crocheted top I didn't like, so it has a lot of ends to weave in. So I'm kind of waiting till probably we go to Texas in January to visit my mom and stepdad, and this will be a good sitting around and chatting project, and maybe even just finishing off that, adding that extra row of edging around here and binding off a little bit tighter to bring that in a little bit so it doesn't kind of flare out. But I really like this design. It's kind of a broken rib design. So yeah, it was a fun knit. So that is it for my finished objects. Oh, I mentioned the Christmas stocking that I gave away to my dad and stepmom. I stuffed it full of goodies for Christmas and gave it to them, so I don't have a picture of that, unfortunately. That was for the Bakery Bears mystery knit-along during Advent. So if I count that, so I count the stocking, I count the hat, and the scarf that I gift knitted, these two things, so that's 5, 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, 10, and 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. 15 things for 2022. Not bad. Not bad. Sometimes it feels like I'm not very productive knitting. I think part of it is because I usually have a lot of things going on at once, and sometimes it just feels like when you're knitting the same things for months at a time, it just feels like there's not a whole lot of progress, but then all of a sudden things are done and bada bing. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that. I also wanted to talk about the podcast, just kind of continue on that vein a little bit. I did Vlogmas this year. I had never, I've watched knitting podcasts probably for the last year and a half maybe, and then like I said, I was inspired to do my own by Knit All the Yarn podcast. And one of the reasons why I wasn't really motivated to do that is because most people podcasts have something to offer. They can either offer they're either designers and they have designs that they're promoting and that are pretty nifty, or they're a yarn dyer and they have yarn they can offer, or maybe someone's like an expert knitwear or knitter, and they can offer like tutorials and stuff like that. I don't really have any of that. I've never designed anything. I mean, I've kind of modified a hat based on a cowl pattern by the knitting expat. She has her road whipping cowl, which I guess I forgot to show that. So I have 16 finished objects, and that's also a gift knit. So that's about the extent of my creativity as far as like designing. I mean, I'm interested in different stitches and stuff like that, and I could probably design a scarf or something like that, but I'm still like understanding fit of garments, and understanding what I like. I tend to like oversized, comfortable garments, but I don't want it too sloppy so that like a cardigan or something's falling off my shoulders. So all that to say, and I will say, like, another podcast I really like, probably one of the first ones I started watching was Fruity Knitting. Very professionally produced podcast, beautiful, and I'm not that kind of a person. So when I stumbled across the Knit All the Yarn podcast, and like I said, I was inspired because she is an incredibly fast knitter and can knit, finish several pairs of socks in a week, whereas I can finish a pair of socks in a couple months. I just like the way that she just recorded and put it out there, and I thought, well, this is really interesting to me because it's just a way to connect with another person with whom you have a similar passion for knitting in this case. The other thing that I am very passionate about, I think if you have been a listener for a while, are my horses, and I have been on an interesting horsemanship journey for decades now, and I have recently jumped on the bandwagon of more natural horsemanship. And so even though natural horsemanship was really gaining popularity in the late 80s and early 90s, I just wasn't doing that. That wasn't part of my journey then, but I really like the way that you can interact with a horse and communicate with a horse through natural horsemanship. So I'll get to my point eventually. So I thought that was the inspiration for this podcast, is that I don't know that knitting and horsemanship, those two things really cross paths very, very often. I'm sure there are other horsemen out there who knit and other knitters who love horses but maybe don't have them. But I just wanted to share my journey of discovery with horsemanship and knitting. Both of them are journeys of discovery, as well as gardening and cooking. Those are the things that are, how do I make interesting, healthy meals with also kind of I'm a bit frugal also. So, using ingredients that I have. I'm not a gourmet cook. I'm a practical cook. So that was the inspiration for the podcast. And then Vlogmas came around. Like I said, I'd never really paid attention to Vlogmas before, and I kind of jumped in with both feet without really knowing what I was getting into on that. But as I learned, Vlogmas is like kind of the snippets of your daily life. And here is Harley, who would like to join the conversation. So it was kind of an interesting challenge, and I know that there are other podcasters out there who didn't want to do it because it just seemed like, maybe there'd be just too much of a daily sameness and hard to produce if as a podcaster you might be more interested in the production part and the entertaining part of it. what I think Vlogmas did for me is that it helped me notice the differences between, you know, each day, you know, each work day versus the weekend. And so that was kind of an interesting exercise, you know, every morning, like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to record today. I feel like I spent a lot of times like, well, I'm, you know, out in the dark in the pasture looking for the horses. Oh, there they are. Great. They're okay. So, and stuff like that. But, you know, there's, you know, the opportunity to notice the differences in your day and also maybe appreciate kind of the rhythm of the day also. So that's what I got from Vlogmas. And I learned some things about editing. So I learned how to put text. I learned how to, I learned how to add music to my, you know, the non-talking parts of my, my vlog. So that was really interesting. Yeah, so I'm hoping to kind of bring some of those skills back to my my regular podcast. My partner's coming back in the house, so the cat jumped off my lap. So you might hear some noise. We'll see. So anyway, that was the part that I wanted to talk about Vlogmas. Yeah, and I will probably do it again next year. It also made, you know, kind of that dark part of December be a lot more interesting as well. The other part of it is that the weather was a lot drier than it often is here at that time of the year, and sometimes it can really be a slog, you know, going out and feeding in the dark in the rain. But we didn't really get as much rain as normal. Okay, the other thing I just wanted to talk about, you know, just the horsemanship journey for the year. So at this time last year, we were practicing on his being a good patient for the veterinarian for just routine examinations and vaccines and stuff like that. He's needle sensitive, so, and he can be kind of reactive. So, you know, even just a vaccine, he would just really get alarmed about it. So we did a lot of practicing of, you know, just like poking and prodding and maybe making things a little bit uncomfortable and rewarding him when he was tolerant. So that went really well. And, you know, now that I think about it, I should start practicing that again because the vet's coming in February for the routine work. And Odin, the focus for the year was respecting my leadership and building our relationship and continuing to practice being comfortable in the horse trailer. And we ultimately went on several trail rides over the summer, and even just a few weeks ago we went on a trail ride, and that was really fun. So we're getting better at that. Yeah. So the focus for 2023, you know, I'm still working on Bragi for, you know, getting him comfortable in the trailer. I would like to start taking him along on trail rides, you know, ponying with Odin, you know, me riding Odin and leading Bragi along. So we'll see how that goes. I'll take you along for that journey. Cooking, I don't really have anything interesting to report about cooking right now. I used my air fryer for the first time in quite a while. I have a air fryer lid for my Instant Pot, and I used that to make some chicken thighs the other night, and they turned out really tasty. But, you know, we've been doing some holiday entertaining, so there's been kind of the standard holiday fare, and I've been somewhat involved, but it's not kind of the normal creative exploring type of cooking, especially when I'm gardening and I have produce to use from the garden. Gardening, I'm really itching to get out there and garden. There's nothing growing right now, really. So I've just been kind of cleaning up the garden and kind of thinking about things for next year. I started following a few different gardening podcasts. One is Callie Kim. Another one is Epic Gardening. And I found one yesterday. It was called Nature is Always Right, I think. So just hoping to get some inspiration from those as well. So I think what my plan is, since we are at about 35 minutes now, I think I'm going to continue to put these podcasts out about every other week. So the next time I podcast will be the Sunday before I start my new job. I've worked at my current job for 17 years, and this new job is, it's a really good opportunity. It's an opportunity for growth. I could totally stay where I am until I retire in the next 5 to 10 years. And believe me, that thought has certainly crossed my mind, because right now, you know, being at the job I have been at for 17 years, you know, I have gained a lot of knowledge, and, you know, I'm kind of a go-to person for answers. And this situation is going to be totally reversed for me. So I'm going to have to have the beginner mind, and have to ask probably dumb questions and be okay with that. You know, a dumb question, I know you know, people think there are no dumb questions, but sometimes the answer is, well, you could look that up yourself, or I told you that yesterday. You know, I'm going to make those kinds of mistakes, and I'm going to have to be okay with that in order to be happy in this new job. So that is definitely a mental adjustment. Next week is my last working week of my current job, and then I'm taking a week off to kind of hopefully get myself into that frame of mind of you know, being that beginner again. So with that, I am going to end this podcast and wish you all a very happy new year, and I hope I see you in a couple weeks. I'll probably add a couple snippet videos. I burned our burn pile, I think it was the day after Christmas, so I'll probably add that to the end of this, just for fun. All right, Happy New Year. So Odin and I just spent a little time in the round pen, just practicing some basic stuff. I use Karen Rolfe's 9 Habits for Excellent Horsemanship. As you can see, the weather is just kind of muddy, and Odin likes to make the best of it. So, but he did a really good job with his practicing just putting the halter on, lowering his head, and letting me put it on. Yeah, you're such a handsome boy. Such a handsome boy. One of these days I'm going to teach him how to pick up that cone. That will also help with some of the training. Like, yes, there he is. There he is. That'll also help with him just accepting the bit more willingly. I don't have any trouble bridling him. He's really good at that. Hi. But it's just one of the principles of, you know, having them just be more involved. So, yes, nice mane there, buddy. Well, I'm going to go work with Bragi in the trailer. Hi, everyone. So, day after Christmas burn pile. This is all the branches and stuff that we've collected over the year. We did this burn pile last Christmas as well. I think we did it on Christmas Eve. This year we're doing it on Boxing Day. So Randy was out here with the propane torch, getting the whole thing going. We had part of it covered with a tarp so it could just have a nice dry spot to start. And then I've been dragging branches from the early November storm from the pasture and setting those on top and raking. Found some good pieces that are firewood size, so I've been hand cutting those. Show you that here. So just with a handsaw. Well, I haven't, there we go. There we go. So yeah, cutting those. This just adds to our firewood pile. The horses are out in the pasture. Well, you can't see it through the smoke, but they are back there hanging out. So anyway, that is today.